Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming to our Healthy Eating Holiday Edition. We're looking forward to everyone being here tonight. Jody is going to be our leader. She's going to lead the conversation tonight with her presentation. Jody is a health coach. She also specializes in nutrition. We're lucky to have her. As you know, she's also our membership director. So she has dual roles here, but tonight she's going to focus on talking about healthy eating, nutrition, ways to make smart decisions when you're going to buffets, holiday functions, work functions, and so forth. So we're going to have a question and answer period at the end. We also have our live presentation here, and I'm going to kick it off with Jody. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And you may or may not get my hurdle over the cord. Oh, good thing. I made it. Well, it is a pleasure to see you all here tonight. I certainly at the end will give my contact information too. We're going to have a Q&A, but certainly keep your questions to the end. I will be asking you a few questions along the way. And yeah, thrilled to offer tonight. So Greg, thank you. You all know Greg as our health coach. And Greg, you have complete permission to stop me anytime. The beautiful thing about health and wellness coaching is that there is more than one way to get from point A to point B, whatever your goal is. So we each bring a unique perspective to the equation. And if Greg, you want to add some color, you go right ahead.
Thank you.
The beauty is always too that you can take what you want, leave the pieces that you don't want. At the end of the day, you are totally in the driver's seat. And this is a really passionate topic for me because I had my son when I was 21 years old, and I watched different sides of the family have babies in different ways and watch their health unfold. I think, like most people, I have great genetics and I have some challenging genetics. I think we all do to a certain extent. But what I have seen is the power of healthy lifestyle choices. So I think what I took away in my 20s is I had some choice and I didn't want it to go down a certain way, especially having a child so young. So I do believe in the power of taking charge of your habits for sure. So this evening, we're almost late to the party because I feel like this conversation should almost start whenever the Halloween candy appears in the stores, which now seems like that's happening in June and July. So to an extent, you know, the period of time between Halloween and New Year's, I see various statistics. The average weight gain is at least 1 to 3 pounds. I've seen anything from 1 to 3 to 7 to 14 pounds. Depends which holiday celebrations you're attending, but it's usually something. So we're happy to help you navigate that. So a list of topics here that we're going to navigate from the perspective of behavioral coaching. So I leave the medical information to the doctors, but the type of health and wellness coaching that I typically do is grounded more in behavioral coaching. And one reason for that is almost all of my clients come to me and say the same thing, and that's, I know what I need to do, but. So does that sound familiar to anyone? Yes, I think for all of us. And we may all, I'm sure you all have healthy habits to a degree. I would also say nobody's perfected the equation. There's always something we can be given a little bit more focus or fine tuning to. Okay, so 3 slices of success we're going to talk about tonight. The juggling act of holiday feasts and social gatherings. I'm going to preface this by saying stretchy pants aren't the answer. The battle between our belts and Aunt Betty's boozy bread pudding, aka alcohol, and how to create your hierarchy of holiday treats. In other words, what matters the most to you. And you might each define that a little bit differently. So, holiday hurdles. Who doesn't have one? Even if you're thumbs down with the eggnog, I think we'd agree that there are plenty of pitfalls to hurdle. So from any of you, what are some of your biggest holiday challenges that you face when you're trying to keep a level of health and wellness? Anybody?
Casseroles.
casseroles. That's a good one.
Desserts,
Desserts.
I
nibbling.
find beverages, like when you're at like
Oh,
a
yeah.
cocktail gathering or something,
Yes.
trying to figure out like, should I go with a mixer, or should I go with like the apple cider, or the eggnog, or like the special drink of the evening? That's what I find myself like, oh, I don't know, how much sugar does it have, what's in it? Well, I find it be both confused sometimes.
Beverages for sure, especially when you don't know some of the ingredients.
True.
Would totally agree with that. And you were going to say
Constant nibbling.
constant nibbling. Oh, that's a
Yeah.
good one. That's a good one.
Then there's how to deal with multiple offerings.
Yeah.
Ooh, we're gonna get into that for sure. Yes.
Too many.
Yes.
So you have someone to eat.
It can be a little overwhelming for
5
sure.
or 6 different things to choose
For
from.
sure. You know, and if you're out there, if you're watching the replay, I would even encourage you to hit pause and write down your own answer. If we haven't answered at the end, you will get my email address, and you can certainly chime in and ask as well. My encouragement is going to be the change you want to eat. There is a lot of noise out there from what other people think you should be having to enjoy yourself. Other people might think, oh, he or she can't possibly be having a good time unless they have a beverage in their hand. Keep it about what you want. Nobody else, if they don't put your pants on, they don't get a vote. That's usually how I tell my clients.
That's a good one.
Well, yeah, right. All right, we're gonna move on to pillar number 1. I call this great gifting. So my 2 cents is the greatest gift you can give yourself this season, and truly any time, is the gift of health. So for success during the holidays, we want to begin with the end in mind. So let's begin with the gift that you're going to give yourself this season, and that is the gift of what? What is it that you really want out of the holiday season? And I ask each of my clients that. Has anybody ever taken the time to really think about, what do I really want for me, health and wellness wise, out of this holiday season? I saw a few eyes get a little bigger.
I'm practicing self-control, you know, when it is you're faced with the option of eating things that you know won't be good for you, but you can't say no, or you don't want to say no, or, you know, the self-control piece for me at least.
Self-control's a good one. What else?
But one of the problems is that there are things that you wait for all year that they only offer at Christmas time. Like the Ghirardelli peppermint chocolate squares.
And the fudge dipped Oreos, the white
For
chocolate
sure.
fudge dipped Oreos.
Or
For
all
sure.
your grandmother's recipes that nobody can taste but you.
Yes.
You don't see them dressing.
Yes, that's going to come into play later. We're going to talk about your personal hierarchies. I think in terms too of, you know, are you trying to manage some cholesterol, blood pressure? Are you on certain medications that you don't want to be taking, or you want to be decreasing a bit? Do you plan to, is it going to be a success for you if you maintain your weight through the holiday season, or a certain level of energy? Or do you want to lose weight?
Greg says I have to lose 10 pounds.
Oh, well, see, your gift has already been bestowed upon you. That's, yep, for sure.
That gift has not been realized over several meetings with Greg.
That's possible, even over a few months, that's possible, for sure. But really beginning with the end in mind. And I ask my clients that too, because I can't just automatically assume that if somebody's been on a weight loss program that they hope to continue to lose weight through the holidays. That's not necessarily everyone's goal. So I would encourage you to give that some thought. I can share health stats, little nuggets of information, but this is really what matters the most. What's the most meaningful to you? So you want to think about that goal, and then let that guide your choices over these next weeks of events. Weekly view, day to day, in the moment, especially when you're faced with the extravagant offerings during the, at the buffet tables and so forth. Some of those, I admit and I agree, can be completely overwhelming.
Yes.
Absolutely overwhelming. So what do I really want on the other side of this decision is the question that you're going to be asking yourself. Okay, why? Why would we even be asking this question? A couple things. Workout inequities and breaking even is unfair math. and I'll explain what I mean. It can be really easy, especially when the media says, oh, this piece of pie equals this many minutes on the treadmill. And I wish it were that simple, because I would be working so many things into my diet over the course of the week, because for many people, the gym is the easy part, or the exercise is the easy part. That's not true for everyone, but it's not as simple as your body saying, oh, let's go dip into those Oreo cookies for the energy for today's workout. It just doesn't work that way, and I wish it did. That is one. And then the other really is, you want to keep a healthy perspective in the equation. And if we start thinking along those lines, it really supports an unhealthy relationship, ultimately. It can, with exercise. Exercise should be enjoyable. I'm confident there's enough out there, enough activities that you can find what it is that you like to do, even if it's walking, bowling. There's so many different, pickleball, so many different types of exercise. But, we want to encourage that to be a positive relationship with yourself, not a punishment one. So that's why the why piece is in there. And then setting your intention really just enables you to proceed through the holidays with your blinders on. You can just lock in that goal, and it becomes that much easier. It allows you then to look at certain things and say, okay, if I really want to lose the 2 pounds, 1 pound a month, if that's really what I want to do, what's my choice in this moment? Makes it that much easier. The other bonus factor that I absolutely love for anybody who's taking charge right now is you are getting a jump start on January. It's a far different approach than January 1st rolls around and you feel like the calendar's telling you, okay, now I have to, now it's time, the calendar says so. Again, it's just one more way that you can put yourself in the driver's seat. And with that, we're gonna move on to balanced banquets. So what you do most of the time is also what matters the most. I'll say that again. What you do most of the time is also what matters the most. One example, it's never going to be the Thanksgiving dinner itself that's responsible for 7 pounds of weight gain. It's generally going to be, and correct me if this is not your experience, it's generally the Thanksgiving leftovers, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then after that, it just bleeds into oh well thinking for the rest of the weeks ahead. Oh well, I've already gone off my plan and I might as well just. So I call that oh well thinking, or might as well just thinking. And it's easy to go with the groove when the delicious treats keep appearing. And if you don't believe me, Greg will vouch for all the delicious lunches that we get served here.
Oh my gosh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we're very grateful, don't get me wrong, but it just makes it that much easier to just keep cruising. So if you're at the event, or if you're taking a dish, use some recipe wizardry. I think many of us have already done this. So recipes that scream I'm fancy but kind of whisper I'm healthy. And there's some ways to accomplish that. I call those Sherlock swaps. Finding healthier ingredients that even your palate detective can't bust. Example, if you're making tiramisu, you can do a single ingredient search, you can do some swaps. Presentation is a great healthy distraction. So presentation can make up a lot for when you just have some really simple ingredients. One example I think of is when I was in Italy. The pizza there is extremely simple. But just the way that they present it, and with the fresh basil, it looks like it's just gonna knock your socks off, and it does. I don't know how they do it with just a few simple ingredients, right? So I think we can all maybe think of something that's presented very beautifully, but isn't necessarily something that's gonna compromise your goals. So I'll list a few: dips, Greek yogurt instead of full fat sour cream, sauces, pesto, but I would encourage you to steer towards those that are made with olive oil as the first ingredient. You may be surprised at how many lesser quality pestos are out there. You gotta sift through. Tiramisu, reduced fat whipped cream, reduced fat cream cheese over the full version. I don't think I'm ever going to be convinced that the fat-free cream cheese is acceptable. Sometimes you're just better off going for the real deal, for sure. Fat-free or non-fat cottage cheese instead of full-fat ricotta. There are a lot of those things that you can mask. And then even with your charcuterie, you know, you can throw some fruit in there. It doesn't have to be all the fatty meat and the heavy cheese. You can, you know, or the brie. It can be some fruits and vegetables in there too. And that's just but one example. You know, really simple ingredients, but it looks really festive, right? Yeah. Aside from the ones that I listed, what other food swaps do you all make? Anything come to mind?
I do hearts of palm pasta,
Mhm.
or like spaghetti squash, or zucchini noodles in
Mhm.
place of actual pasta.
Smart.
Like, you know, and I also try to be careful when I'm trying to go for like gluten-free pasta, like bean pastas,
Mm-hmm.
because they can be really heavy in carbohydrates. So people can feel like bean pasta, like Bonsai.
Bonsai.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, it's a healthy thing. So I have plenty of it, and then you just blew the sugar and carbohydrate numbers out the gate because you're just taking in too much.
It's true, and we actually see a lot of that. You're familiar with gluten-free products.
Yeah.
I see the goal, I understand that, but then it's at the expense of, it's usually heavier in starches and therefore challenging, denser. Yes.
I've recently discovered the chickpea pasta,
Mhm.
which had a lot of protein. So if I want to how to get protein, is that a bad choice? I thought that was pretty good.
No, not necessarily. It's always going to come down to portion control. But yes, the market has expanded and there are more protein pastas. You do have to watch sometimes because if we have someone who's vegan, usually the protein in there is coming from eggs. So then, you know, you just have to be aware of the ingredients. But I think especially for the pasta, it comes down to the portion size.
But see, that's my
Mhm.
biggest thing. I don't really know. I mean, they can say 2 ounces or what. Okay, well, what is that? When
What
you get
does
it
that
on a
mean?
plate, don't tell me that. You know, is that a half a cup? A cup? What?
I would strongly encourage you remember here. Are you taking advantage of your visits with Greg?
Just salt?
Okay, you just got a really great reason to see Greg more often because Greg is going to work with you and help you with the answer to that question. It's really different for everyone.
Yeah, I find
Mhm.
usually when I do carbohydrates, try to use a cooked carbohydrates the size of your palm with your meals. And I have to specify cooked because rice, pasta. So that's why going to like places like Joe's Inn or the Olive Garden is just not going to work because I mean you're blowing it out of the park.
You
So
mean
yeah,
like
A
Like-
fistful,
like a fistful
a fistful
of cooked
Oh, fistful.
of cooked
Yeah,
cooked
there you
pasta
go,
is
yeah.
a pretty good gauge for most people.
Okay.
Mhm.
But that's also bean pasta. It's like
Mhm.
chickpea pastas.
Oh,
But
same thing.
But if you do
Mhm.
like spaghetti squash or zucchini noodles or hearts of palm noodles, that's a vegetable, and the programs we use here really give green lights to vegetables.
Sure.
So you can have a whole big plate of hearts of palm noodles and just go down and be really good with that. That's fine.
Or you could cut it. You could
Oh,
do
yeah.
half and half. I have
Yeah.
some of my clients do half and half, so it's a heftier portion or add more vegetables, mushrooms, zucchini, that sort of thing. That
Because
works.
the carbs aren't in those.
Hearts of palm
Yes.
is the vegetable, but
Uh-huh.
they make them into noodles now. They also make them hearts of palm
So you
mash.
just buy like a box?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, and they cook really quick. They're actually pretty good.
Where do you get
all
that?
these from?
Yeah.
Trader Joe's has it,
Oh.
Publix, even Kroger
Mhm.
has it, everywhere has it.
Wow.
And you get it offline, you feel like kind of searching for it,
So
but
that's
Trader
better
Joe's,
than like a chickpea kind of.
1000%.
Oh.
And
The
then,
calories would be much lower.
See, we
Yeah.
thought we were doing a good thing. 'Cause of-
Well, you are.
You are doing a good
You
thing.
are.
Protein.
there's,
Yeah.
well, another thing I like is mix, let's say you get like, hearts of palm penne pasta and regular pasta, mixing the two, how the you're saying. And then you're mixing the two, but the hearts of palm is just a vegetable. But it looks and has a similar taste and
You have more.
consistency to get more of
Yes.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
then
a
I
great
threw
one.
in shrimp, so.
For sure. So lots of great swaps. Meats would be another. You can always, use the less fatty meat or a combination. Sometimes, yes, ma'am.
Sparkling water instead of soda.
Ooh, sparkling water instead of soda. I made the well, I'll save that for the fails for the end. I have a fail section at the end, yes. But yes, sparkling water, 100%. For sure. And yes, I mean, that's usually if you have a really heavy, dense recipe that doesn't fall into the category of I only get this one time of year kind of recipe, you can always do a Google search. There's so many different exchanges for a lighter item. So your healthy takeaway there is don't be distracted by the presentation. Yes, you can use the presentation in your favor to make single ingredients look gorgeous, but then also don't be distracted by, I don't know, a Whitman sampler chocolate that just because it's on the buffet, that you say, oh, I'm gonna have that because it's the holidays. So pick and choose. Okay, more on balanced banquets. Location, location, location. What do I mean by that? We eat with multiple senses, including our eyes. So if you're standing like I am, and that reception table is within my sight lines, if I can see the food on it, that is going to be one additional cue that I have that I need to go get food, whether I'm hungry or not. So I can turn my back, I can go to another room. It really does, that really is a powerful cue. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but if it leads you to eat too much, just know that can be a factor that you have some control over. And if left to our own devices, we get so distracted with the social interaction, which is why we're normally at an event anyway. That's the point. But we can get caught up in those cues, and before you know it, you've had way more than you planned to when you walked in the door. Master the art of the perfectly balanced party plate. I somewhat will challenge the idea. There is the general rule of a balanced plate being half vegetable, quarter protein, quarter starch. And it seems like a really super idea in theory. In most cases it is, but if you're at a heavier buffet or meal, some things like sometimes those vegetables can be so drenched in oil and butter, that's not such a great idea. Or the starch could be something like shrimp and grits. The grits are, they're made with heavy cream. So that's a case where maybe you just skip the starch altogether and your treat is the piece of dessert, or your treat is the alcohol, or your treat is a dinner roll. That way you're still having some balance, but balance, I think that general equation is okay, but then look at the quality of those items as well. So it depends. Programming your party picks, tips with those. I normally start with protein before I go. An hour before I go, I'll drink a small protein shake. That's one of my tricks, because most events are gonna be light on the protein. Unless you can get your hands on a bowl full of shrimp cocktail or similar, most events are going to be very fat and carbohydrate heavy, not so protein heavy. So if you don't like protein shakes, that's fine too. You can do a single ingredient protein. But it is going to be the most satiating of the macros as well. So great idea to go with your hunger, just have that little edge taken off. Second option, and I carry 100 calorie packs of nuts in my purse. It's very rare. We don't really go to restaurants a whole lot, but if we go and let's say there's an hour wait, first of all, there's very few restaurants in my opinion that require an hour wait. But if we were to be out for some reason and dinner's delayed, a small handful of nuts is a great idea, and a bottle of water. That'll also take the edge off. Again, I prefer protein just because most events are gonna be light on that protein, but fat's not a bad option as well. And then getting to our hierarchy now, making room for what matters the most. So I think the first layer really to cut out is consider if there's anything that makes you feel physically ill. I think we've all done it. This food, really triggers my acid reflux, but I'm gonna have it anyway because I love it. That's a great way to help just sift through choices across the board. fried foods, spicy foods. If you're dealing with acid reflux, just push those off to the side. You don't need to have those. Not limited to stomach symptoms though either. If you've ever noticed you've gone to an event and the next day, or you've gone out to a meal and you have the dark circles under your eyes, possibly from too much sugar. Dry skin is another. So again, it's not just limited to just the stomach symptoms. Next layer, I would say the foods that you can treat like a convenience store. If you can look at the menu or look what's served or on a buffet table, and if it's a food that you could get at Wawa 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, then it's not really that special, and will leave you room for the things that are more special. I could put away some peanut M&Ms if left to myself, right? So when when people do, right, the red and green M&Ms in a bowl, right? But then, yeah, I think about it, Cindy, I'm like, I can get these at the gas station any time I want, even on Christmas Day. So they go in the not so special category. And then the other thing that I would put in this list, things like stovetop stuffing, instant mashed potatoes, alcoholic beverages. I mean, I say alcohol because I wake up tired the next day, and my body just does not process alcohol. So that, again, it's a little different for everybody.
What is stovetop stuff?
Stovetop stuffing
from the
from the
box.
box?
Oh, wow.
It's a box.
It's a
You just
box
put like
stuffing.
water in it and you make
We
it
were
on the
lazy.
stovetop.
Yes.
We don't.
We make fancy stuff.
You make
Yeah.
fancy stuffing. See? Oh, you're lucky.
Yeah. And I look at a recipe and I
Uh-huh.
double or triple the amount of mushrooms.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm coming to your house.
Okay.
I would enjoy that.
So it's, and then my other favorite thing I put in there are, what are
Water
those things?
chestnuts.
Water chestnuts.
Oh,
So
crunch.
it's a little different crunch, and
It
it's,
is.
it's, I think it's pretty healthy.
Oh my gosh. I'll be over at 6.
Okay.
Okay.
We won't be eating at 6 p.m.
You're late.
Like
Whatever time you tell me.
5. 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Look at you begging for an invitation.
I cook for Thanksgiving.
Oh,
He does.
I bet it's wonderful.
He's
I
really
like
good.
it.
Yeah, I bet it's wonderful. But at any rate, dishes that you know are pretty commercially prepared, those you can kind of shove off to the side too. And you know what was really cool in the beginning of the presentation? You all rattled off some items that you hands down only get once a year. I think I heard some special jam, jelly type thing. What else? Let's hear that list again. I have one too.
Oh, it was the white chocolate fudge dipped Oreos.
Yes, so good. Did you have one? Is there a special food or a dish that your family has maybe just once a year?
Maybe pumpkin pie.
Pumpkin pie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You
Well,
said
I mean
one.
the pies. I mean pecan pie, chocolate chess pie.
Mm.
Then there's gingerbread. Then there's boiled custard.
Oh, yes.
I'm glad
So you do a little
I'm
taste of each.
No, I don't do all that.
Oh, okay.
So,
Well, there you go. Yeah, pick one. Pick one. And that's really a two-prong approach too. You can have one piece of your favorite or maybe a tiny spoonful of all the little special things. What else did I hear?
A pecan pie.
Pecan
that's another
pie.
one.
Uh-huh.
Apple cider, eggnog, things of that nature.
Mm.
Those more decadent beverages that
Mhm.
have a lot of hidden calories,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of extra sugar.
We talked about like family recipes that people pull
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mom makes such super cutout cookies. And I'll tell you, gosh, when they're around, they're so hard to say no to, but I can say no to almost all the grocery store baked goods just because that's what I'm really holding out for.
Yeah.
Right? So those kinds of things are great too because they really do help you sift through everything that's offered.
It's a good comparison.
Yeah, and then appropriate portions. And a plan for the leftovers. You gotta have a plan for the leftovers. Who's taking those home? All right. Anything on just banquets or social gatherings before we move on to our third pillar? Questions or comments?
I can't think of questions. It's just all overwhelming. I
It
think
is.
all your tips are really good.
Oh.
Really pick what's a standout.
Thank you. Yeah, for you personally. And again, yep, your blinders on. It's always so challenging. You know, everybody wants you to feel comfortable and fed and enjoy yourself, and that's always the intention, I think, of most people. So their intentions are in the right
You think
place.
you're gonna be good and you have little bits, but you have little bits of everything, and then you've got a big pile of a lot. Yeah.
It's
That's gonna
true.
work.
Well, and I think in that circumstance, I might commit to maybe a small appetizer plate and then one plate of dinner of my favorites. That way, one plate is only going to do but so much damage. And I don't take home leftovers unless it's just like the turkey. I'll take that, right? But yeah, Greg, do you have a different approach? Like when the buffet's so overwhelming, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
I usually try to find my favorite items. Like I usually go for certain ones, especially that are high in protein. And I try to get a protein first, so I'm less likely to go after things that are high in sugar or too decadent. So go for the high protein option first, and then
Yes.
start from there. A lot of times people go for the side dishes first, high
Mhm.
sugar and carb options, and then they just are craving more and more of that because protein helps you stay fuller longer and makes you feel more satisfied.
For sure,
You do that first, definitely.
for sure.
Get the edge off.
And someone told me I wouldn't gain weight with protein.
I did. Protein's a great, it's a safe bet, definitely. You'll be more full longer, maintains muscle, right?
Definitely. Thank you for that.
Sure.
All right. Pillar 3 of 3, all about alcohol. We saved this. We during the summer presentation, we had so much to cover, but we really said, let's kind of push the alcohol off to the holidays, and it's totally appropriate this season. So alcohol is actually, if you've been working with Greg, we think of 3 macronutrients, foods that give you energy, right, or calories rather, carbohydrates, fats, proteins, but alcohol is actually the 4th. It has calories, and we definitely have to watch this one, especially when you're logging, because apps like MyFitnessPal don't always accurately reflect the macros in alcohol or the calories. And shortly, I'm going to share some new ways to get into the holiday spirits. But before I do that, it's good to know why this topic commands some attention. So we're going to take a quick peek under the hood with that. A few things. I'm not going to get too technical, but essentially, the alcohol is going to decrease nutrient absorption, namely your B vitamins. So you're compromising some things there. Can also increase stomach acid. And think excess. The liver's gonna convert alcohol into triglycerides and cholesterol, specifically when there's too much of it. The ethanol is both water and fat soluble, so all cells in the body can absorb it. The liver's gonna convert that alcohol using enzymes into acetaldehyde, which is a toxic substance. So the body perceives that as toxic immediately when you consume it. And then that in turn is converted to acetate. And if it's not happening fast enough, you get a buildup of the acetaldehyde in your system, and then that just translates to an unhappy liver. So, you know, if you're really considering the liver and your overall health too, just I think knowing a little bit behind the scenes can help you alter those choices as well. So, as I said in here, the liver throws awful after parties. And something fun, I think, you know, what also comes into play here are portions. If you have any of the classic red Solo cups at home, I think I was about 40 years old. I was coaching construction workers, and one of them clued me into this, that the traditional red Solo cups actually will give you portion sizes for alcohol. Did anybody know that?
Heard that.
Yes. So if you go home, and I went to 3 different stores today, but I couldn't locate said red Solo cups. So I'm going to show you in a cup that's close enough. This first little line at the bottom, if you it's actually a groove, that is 1 ounce of alcohol. So when I know it's such a sad little serving. So in the summer, my husband's name is Kevin. I talk about the Kevin pour because the Kevin pour is much longer than what you see right here. Now on other traditional red Solo cups, your next line is here, and that's 1 serving of a glass of wine. And then the next line,
Up there?
no, the wine serving would be about right here.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then your beer serving would be this line toward the top. That's your 12 ounces. So that's what qualifies as 1 beverage. When we hear 1 beverage, 1 ounce of hard liquor, 4 to 5 ounces of wine or 12 ounces of beer, but who's really pouring 1 ounce in a mixed drink? So that's really, you know, it's like, you know, Coach said I could have 1 tablespoon, if you've seen that meme, and it's like a big, huge shovel full of peanut butter. Same with alcohol. We can overdo it so easily.
Can I ask a quick question?
Of course.
Is a wine and like alcohol like bourbon or vodka?
Hard liquor?
Hard liquor, are they equivocally the same?
It depends on which health consequence we're talking about. So yes and no. I mean, in terms of like acid reflux, there's definitely some better choices, and I'll get into that in a little bit. If you're going sheerly from a calorie standpoint, your hard liquors would probably have less. A little less, just depending.
I
Impact.
always think of hard liquor as like more harder on the body than the
Potent to the body.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll hear, the poison is in the dose, so the amount will be 1. But then 2, it just depends on, again, specific medical concern
So
too,
there's
or
really
health
not-
goal.
So there's not that much difference. between the
I'll give you a list in a couple minutes.
two? Okay.
Yeah, I'll give you a list. That's a great question. So we are at a time where we have never had, if you're looking for alternatives, we're at a time where we have never seen so many. So one idea is to work some mocktail magic like Siobhan did tonight. She put together the apple cider non-alcoholic mules, which are delicious. Thank you so much. And the recipe is over there as well if you like to take one home. Other companies are popping up. This is not an exhaustive list, but Apothecary with a K, Curious Elixirs, 3 Spirit, Ritual, Hio, Kin. Those are just to name a handful. Some of them can give you that relaxed feeling, but without the actual alcohol. So that's an option for you. If acid reflux or GERD is something about which you're concerned, light beers, distilled spirits like whiskey and vodka, tequila and non-grain vodka, gin, sour beer, those have a lower pH, so they're nicer to your stomach. But again, this is really a discussion about good, better, best. Best is you're not gonna have any symptoms if you don't drink any. But if you do want some and you wanna have a treat, that would be my guidance there. If you are experiencing GERD, high proof spirits like gin, whiskey, and cognac, those are less likely to stimulate stomach acid secretion than drinks with lower ethanol content. And keep it to 1, and then just know what the bartender might have a last call, but your last call should be, if you want to minimize the negative effects on your system, 2 to 3 hours before bedtime, at least. Yeah. And then if you want lower calorie options, so if it's a weight goal or weight is your concern, I have quite a list. Vodka soda or 0 calorie seltzer, rum and Diet Cola, Manhattan, gin, a gin martini, not a chocolate martini, a gin martini, a Paloma, which I had forgotten about. That's made with grapefruit and lime juice. It's similar to a margarita. Has anybody had one? No? Okay.
Sounds good.
I had one a long
That's great.
time ago. I forgot about it till I was doing putting together this presentation. Champagne, seltzer, and fruit, light beer, dry red wine is less sugar, so not Riesling, Moscato, or sherry, or another dessert wine. Baileys and coffee, tequila and lime, vodka, mint, cucumber, and a lime wedge, margarita on the rocks, and liquor with a wedge. So again, this is a good, better, best strategy, unless you're, swearing it off completely. Okay.
Is there like a goal with sugar when you get into these mocktails? Like, should we try and keep the drink to less than a certain amount of grams of sugar?
That's a good question too. I think it comes down to your personal goals. Number 1. So what do you budget for a day? One approach to it, gosh, if I'm not competing in it, like I'm just going through a holiday season, I might give myself 100, 150 calories a day as a treat budget, but that's knowing I'm gonna get my exercise in. So those were my personal goals, being very active, and the rest of my calories coming from mainly single ingredients. So if you think about it in those terms, I've usually talked about it in calorie terms. Greg, do you give a carb or a sugar? I usually would give my clients an overall daily sugar limit. So like if it's a, 140, 150 pound female, maybe 40 grams a day if they're really looking to stay tight. Do you agree or disagree with
I
that?
agree with that. I usually have people
Mhm.
track their carbohydrates.
Yep.
And try to put that into around 100 grams of carbs or
Mhm.
less, and then kind of go off that usually. And I try to get around 5 grams of sugar per serving of an item or less.
Mhm.
So that I stick around that because sugar really is what builds body fat.
Yes.
And a lot of things like salad dressings, granola, Greek yogurts, things that sound healthy,
Yep.
and they're just loaded with sugar. And a lot of waters. You'd be surprised. Energy
For sure.
drinks, drinks supposed to give you energy or have special things, say for sports enhancement,
Yeah.
loaded with sugar.
Correct. And they're for a certain purpose. I mean, when you're running for 3 hours at a time, you need some intra-run fuel. But just walking around daily, we see, and I used to coach cheerleading and I took the girls to camp, and here there was a sheet of have a Gatorade with lunch every day, and I look at the bottom and the company Gatorade had sponsored those sheets that they were giving out. Well, I mean, at sports, like that's a good idea.
Mhm.
Do they need it at lunch? Not so much. So that's an absolutely great point. Yeah. Good. So yeah, you're having everybody look at the totals.
100, and tracking is huge. If you
Mhm.
track your calories on Lose It, MyFitnessPal, Carb Counter, that's a really good way to hit objectives, stay on track.
Great
Absolutely.
awareness.
And they're free apps.
Absolutely. Yep. I would double check some of the mixed drinks. I think that's where, so for instance, I have seen some alcoholic beverages like light beers in MyFitnessPal. And when you did the macro math, I won't get too deep into it, but when you do the macro math, there was carbohydrate listed, but no alcohol. MyFitnessPal, at least in my version, wasn't tracking alcohol grams, or that wasn't provided for that item. So it looked like the beer would have been 40 calories because only the carbs were counted, but not the alcohol. So the end of your day, if you're not looking at that item closely enough, it wouldn't reflect correctly. Anything else on alcohol? I want to say just a few words about appetizers, but alcohol. Charles knows what I'm going to say. Appetizers are worth more calories than an entree in many cases. Not the stuffing at your house, though. So with appetizers, the truth lies in the app. You should, I think, always beware of the appetizers when you're looking at a menu. My jaw is still slightly dropped from the day I found out that an Awesome Blossom has, last I knew, 1,440 calories in an awesome.
Is it
One
Outback?
of, one of the
Is it
steak
Bloomin'
restaurants.
Onion?
Bloomin' Onion. That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah, somewhere around 1,440 calories. The last time I saw that published, and I believe it. So I could have had. I mean, I could have a burger and cheese with cheese and fries for less than that. So.
Right.
So definitely be aware.
Except the bloomin' onion tastes so good.
I will give you that. I will give you that for sure. So yeah, many of the appetizers do clock in more calories. So gosh, I mean, if they don't mean anything to you, just skip them altogether. But that's, I think, where a lot of people get caught up. So I did want to point that out. And then we're winding down here. So food fail tales. It will not always be perfect. Sometimes the best of intentions results in the worst of outcomes. You can make a polite order. It doesn't show up that way. You do your best. We move on. Travel, holidays, social events, something is always going to be out of control. So if you're ready for that, it just makes those situations that much easier. And I always say too, it's not that serious. Usually not that serious. I don't know. I mean, in terms of food fail tales, I think that where I got caught up once, it was around the holidays. I had double hernia surgery, and I thought I was drinking my water. Well, I had used my husband's from his bar. I thought it was club soda. It was tonic. And I looked at the label. It was 140 calories of pure sugar. And I thought, here, I've been recovering on tonic. This is awesome. So, again, best of intentions, things happen. Anybody else, have you had just like a really good intention with your health goals and it just didn't shake out that way with your nutrition? You do?
You know the naked juice?
Yeah, speak up for the audio if you would please. Go ahead. Yeah, please, come on over.
So I actually used to think that I was being healthy by drinking those, because I mean obviously they're advertised as, you know, like just a fruit smoothie or a green machine or whatever else they have.
The naked juice?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And I learned something, and it's the only thing that's stuck with me actually when it comes to nutrition. So when you look at the ingredients, typically the ones that are listed first are the ones that are the most. So the amount of sugar that is in those things, I don't understand. Like, I don't know how they were being advertised that way. And the whole time, like, I was drinking one every day, thinking I'm on my little health journey. But it made me feel horrible, and ever since I stayed away
Oh
from
my
that.
gosh.
And I've been looking at that, at the label. So even though I'm not super good with counting my calories, I think it's super helpful to start just looking at the label. If the first ingredient that you see is sugar, you should probably stay away from that.
100%.
And it's you know, like with advertisement and stuff, like a lot of things are advertised like in a wrong way. A lot of things will say that it's all natural, but it's really not. So that's something that I've learned that I don't know.
That's a good one. I feel like our next event should be all about sugar, just because.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yes, I think we have, and I have a few just fun things to go along with that. My wheels are already turning. So thank you for sharing. Yes, for sure. Anybody else? Food fail when you were trying to be healthy and it just didn't work out that way.
I've used bottled salad dressings and I vowed never to use them again.
Yeah.
You know, make
Yeah.
your own dressing or look for the sugar content so high so much,
Mhm.
and that's been the derailing factor. Or you're trying to go thinking it, or something could say like a mayonnaise or a dressing saying it's made with olive oil, but it could have olive oil in it. It could have like 1% olive oil and like 99% else another oil. But legally,
True.
they're allowed to say that. So it's
True.
flipping over the label and actually looking at the ingredients that are actually used is vital.
It's true, and there are so many reduced calorie and low calorie salad dressings out there. Along those lines, I've seen many of my clients want to use the Bolthouse Farms dressings, which are delicious and have their place, but it's all about displacement too. If you're having that as the rule, you're displacing where you could have had some healthy olive oil or avocado oil and really benefited from the whole food instead, and probably had more satiety, better satiety, more staying power with that meal. So definitely things to watch. All right, I'm gonna open this up for Q&A. Hopefully you each had at least one little takeaway tonight. That's the goal. What questions do you have? Where did I miss that we could come back to?
Can I ask a technical question?
Please.
Okay. So if you went
Yeah.
to, like, what is it called, MyFitness?
MyFitnessPal.
So
The
my
app.
bugaboo is looking up all these things and then feeding it into the app. Does the app just know that certain things have a certain calorie, or you have to feed all that info in there?
No, it'll assign calories, but like you could put in, like carrot cake, and it might have 3 different options because it doesn't know like a few things. Like if it,
Basically, if I were to hit on it for one meal and say, okay, I'm having this and this and this, what proportions, I guess, more or less, but
Mhm.
it would tell you.
yeah,
It
you can
sh-
pick
it
the
should.
size of like a protein,
Okay.
and it'll kind of tell you an estimate of what the calorie count is.
Unless-
There's a hierarchy in there too. Generally
unless I
speaking.
have to program it myself and feed in there.
You do, and I think if you give more attention up front to choosing the correct item, because people from all over the
right.
world will enter foods in there, and some may or may not be correct.
Right.
So if you have a certain brand of lean ground turkey, I would check your label against the entry, make sure it's correct the first time. And it's a little bit more tedious up front, but long term, then you just copy meals over, copy foods over, because you'll have built your personal list. And then the green check marked items are supposedly better verified than just anything without a green check mark. Anything you want to add to that, Greg?
No, that sounds pretty good, yeah, definitely. The more you use it, the easier it gets.
Yes.
And also you can scan barcodes.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's like a carrot cake that has a barcode attached or a
Mhm.
salad dressing, you can scan it with your phone and then it uploads it and then it just asks for the quantities you use.
This sounds trite, but it's just sort of generally, I'll put it out there.
Please.
Dirty laundry, because it's how I roll. You know, if I'm gonna pour half and half, and then I do switch off to the plant-based half and half.
Yeah.
But that had more calories than the half and half, but then I found out that the dairy industry was cruel, so then I'm, you know, anyway.
It can get,
But-
yeah.
But what I'm saying is when I pour it in the coffee, I'm not measuring out the tablespoon, I'm doing a kind of,
It's a rough estimate.
Okay. Or when I'm, what else do I do that with? So many things, like the olive, I don't do dressings anymore. I caught that up a long time ago, but I just drizzle the olive oil and then I'll take, some of that balsamic reduction. just
Yum.
jiggle,
Mhm.
jiggle. Then boom, I'm done. I don't know how much I had, technically. 'Cause
Well,
I didn't measure it.
Yep, rough estimate. For the coffee, for me, that's a pretty easy one. I would measure once or twice. Take note of whatever color coffee you have at the end of that,
There we go.
and then you'll know.
And
Then you'll know.
And then when
Mhm.
you're getting that color, you're there.
Then you're there.
That is
Yes,
genius.
you could do
So
that.
you gotta do the initial homework. Okay.
The initial homework.
Because you gotta be,
Mm-hmm.
you gotta be on that.
The salad dressing, it's a guesstimate. I mean, personally, I get the little
Everything.
square plastic containers and I line them up on my counter and I put tablespoon of olive oil in each, little vinegar in each, apple cider vinegar, my garlic, my salt and pepper, and then I have, individual containers, so the guesswork there is done. And I've
Wow.
made 5 or 6 servings in
At
one
one
full
time.
swoop. Mm-hmm.
Whoa, that's a novel.
Yeah.
That's like a light bulb.
Sure. I mean, you gotta let them defrost and be really
Yeah.
careful if you want to microwave those to room temperature.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's a whole other class.
Wow.
Good questions. What else?
You talked about how exercise
Uh-huh.
doesn't always like if I plan on going on a big hike today, then I can't necessarily eat a heavy meal because it doesn't always equate.
Yeah. So, what's your specific question? I think I know what you're getting at.
Well, you had a note on one of the slides that said like the calories don't equate or something like that.
Sure. So if I eat a large meal one night and I say, okay, I'm gonna have, I'll just 3 slices of pizza and then I want a piece of cheesecake after that
Right.
because I'm gonna go to the gym for 4 hours tomorrow. Well, my body's already handled that excess. And when we give our bodies excess, typically they're going to store the extra. Your body's going to process that food. The insulin's going to do its job. Excess gets stored as triglycerides. So your body's kind of already digested that meal and done what it's going to do. So my point was when I'm at the gym the next day, it's not going to say, oh, hey, Jody had that raspberry cheesecake. We're going to pull from that food out of her body first. It'll really be a matter of pulling from, at that point in time, whatever my circulating blood sugars are, and then it's going to tap deeper into my energy stores and my glycogen in my liver and my muscles, and then it would probably pull from fat stores after that. Fat energy, that's how fat gets mobilized.
What if you ate like something for breakfast and then went on like a
Timing.
better?
Yes.
Okay.
Typically I would say you want to fuel for whatever you're doing the next 3 hours ahead.
Okay.
But if I've eaten a big meal, in most cases, my body's gonna process that the night before, and I'm gonna take myself to bed with all those calories. It's why if you've had a large meal at night, you wake up the next morning and you're just not hungry for breakfast, because that takes a little bit of time. Greg, anything else you want to add?
No, I agree. I mean, I think we can't outwalk, outrun, outlive. a bad
Out-train,
diet,
yeah.
So trying to stay in your calorie, your basal metabolic rate or about that,
Right.
regardless of your activity level, is where I find people are the most successful.
Sure.
And that's where the holidays, you know, if you're gonna have maybe a cheap meal over the holidays on Thanksgiving Day,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't turn Thanksgiving into a cheat day. Cheat days are just not successful, because
No.
you don't wanna go too far off your calorie goal, because you do that, it starts accumulating, and you lose gauging of that.
For sure. And then the other reason it doesn't necessarily work out is metabolism is very dynamic. I don't, none of us burn the same number of calories every single day, even though we might be on a static meal plan that says this many calories. Really is taking more of a weekly average into consideration. So as you do certain activities, like yes, I might get more depleted in one cardio session, or weight training session. It's kind of like, have you ever done a workout where you're just very flat at the end and you know you've hit the wall and you know you've hit the end of your energy stores, or a hike? You just know I'm out of steam. That's one point. Does that answer your question? Yeah, good one. Anybody else? All right. Well, I look forward to follow-up questions. Thank you all
Thank you.
so much for being here. Certainly email me. You know where to find Greg as well.
Oh,
If you're
absolutely.
on the website, just click Richmond. Greg is one of the profiles there. And thank you, Siobhan. You coordinated all this beautiful food and the chairs and the setup and the filming, and we thank you for that. And we will see you on IG at WelcomeMD 2Ls. Thank you.